We're starting something new here on the channel, an ongoing series answering your creator questions. Everything from mics and gear to how to get your podcast from Spotify to Apple Podcasts, the best way to record with multiple camera angles in person, and more. If you'd like us to answer your questions, whether it's about video, podcasting, audio, and more, leave comments below this video and we'll answer those in the series in the future. And you can also join our Facebook community where we have almost 20,000 members. Leave your questions in the community. That's where I pulled all the questions for today's video. And I'm excited to answer your questions directly to help you get creating faster and easier. All right, this first question is from Laura in the community, and she's asking for the best mics for recording two people at the same time in the same room. She keeps getting voice overlap. This is a really common problem when you're recording in the same room and people are in close quarters. Many times when one person's speaking, their voice is being picked up in the other mic, and it makes editing really difficult. So number one, you want to get a dynamic microphone, not a condenser. Condenser microphones are more sensitive, they're going to pick up more room noise. Mics like the Blue Yeti are condensers, and those are going to be really hard to edit out the other person's voice. Number two, you want to get a dynamic mic, and I'm going to make a couple suggestions in a second, but you want to make sure you're using good mic technique. Keep it pretty close to your mouth, like just a few inches away, and you might want to turn the gain down, not too far down, but enough where it's not picking up so much room noise in the other person. So lower the volume a little bit, keep the mic close to your mouth. When you set up the microphones, make sure they're back to back. Don't sit next to each other like this. Sit opposite, facing each other. And two microphone recommendations, the Shure MV6 Plus. This is a great microphone. It's really an intermediate one at about $280, but it's dynamic. It rejects sounds on the opposite side of the mic really well, and it's USB and or XLR. You can get either connection, so you can use it with or without an audio interface. But Shure also released a newer microphone recently called the Shure MV6. It's actually cheaper at $150. It is USB-C only, so there's no XLR connection, but this has built-in voice isolation, and it actually works really well. I did an entire video comparing the 9 best USB microphones this year. I'll link it above and down in the description, but this was one of my top new choices, and that voice isolation is going to help cut out the other person's voice in your microphone. So the MV6, probably the way to go. Number two, Shane was asking, curious what monetization platforms such as Patreon other Riverside creators are using. He's used Patreon in the past, but wants to check what else is out there. So if you didn't know, Patreon is a platform where you can offer bonus, paid, or exclusive content to paying members. It's a great way for people to be able to support whatever you're creating monthly at whatever level you want, and you can even have multiple tiers and offering different benefits. Another great option to offer that kind of paid access either to a private podcast or newsletter is Memberful. That's actually what I use for my podcast. And just for comparison, Supercast is another platform out there. But if you're looking to monetize in other ways, not just bonus or exclusive content, I would recommend looking at Circle.so. It's actually a community platform. I have one personally, and almost 1,000 people have joined, but you can offer free and paid spaces in Circle. So the free tier, I have almost 1,000 people, but I also have specific spaces that are paid access. You can charge monthly or annually, and I have over 200 people joining in that space. So you have Patreon, Memberful, Supercast, Circle for paid community, but one I would recommend if you have any kind of podcast at all and you're offering bonus content, I would highly recommend monetizing in Apple Podcasts directly. With Apple Podcast, if you offer any kind of paid benefit, listeners will actually see a banner by default whenever they're listening to your show, and when they tap it, because they're likely already set up with an iCloud account and a credit card associated, they can sign up either monthly or annually for your bonus content right in Apple Podcast in just a few clicks. They tap subscribe, they confirm with the side button, and they're supporting you that quickly. Apple Podcast also has a nice way to display both public content and then when you have bonus episodes that are subscriber only. To offer that kind of paid content directly in Apple Podcasts, you do need to go to Apple Podcast Connect, create a channel for your show, and then you can create differing support levels, whether it's monthly or annual. You could set the price, and you can also offer free trials so people can listen for 3 days for free, and then they'll start being charged after that. Craig from the community is asking, how do I get my show on Apple? He records in Riverside, hosting through Spotify for Creators, now wants to get it available on Apple Podcasts. This is a great question and can be a little confusing for first-timers. So what you want to do is if you host with Spotify for Creators or previously Anchor, log into your Spotify for Creators account and go to your show page. This is where you manage your episode and other aspects of your show. And here on the left-hand side, you want to go to the settings. And here where you have show settings, like where you have your show name and description, you want to go over to availability. In this availability section, you have the direct links to Spotify and Spotify for Creators, but the RSS distribution is what you need to get your show on Apple Podcasts. This right here is actually your RSS feed. Then you can submit this RSS feed to things like Amazon Music, iHeart, and Apple Podcasts to get your show distributed in more places. Once you copy this RSS link, now you're going to go to Apple Podcast Connect. We'll put a link to that down in the video description. You log in with an Apple ID. It's free to create one if you don't have it already. And once you log into Apple Podcast Connect, you can create a new show or submit a show by clicking the plus icon, New Show, and now you're going to add a show with an RSS feed. You'll hit Next, and right here is where you'll paste that RSS feed URL that you got from Spotify. It'll walk you through several steps. It'll go through a submission process, which typically takes 24 hours, and then your podcast will be live and available in Apple Podcasts as well. All right, number 4, Lau is saying they're thinking of doing a recap of our podcast, extracting engaging moments from each episode, like the moments when they're laughing, and they want to be able to pull these clips from across episodes. This is one of the huge benefits of recording with Riverside because we keep all your recordings organized and you can quickly pull from other episodes when you're editing. So here I am in my Riverside account. You'll see we have all my past episodes for my video podcast here. Let's jump into the latest one and actually just start editing right at the beginning. We're going to head into the Riverside editor, and this is where all the magic happens. You can edit via transcript with our text-based editing. You can now add B-roll and video overlays, which is very exciting. And you can use all of our AI tools like Set Pace to remove all silences, Magic Audio, which will make any microphone sound studio quality, and more. But let's say you wanted to add clips from your other episodes, maybe magic clips that you created, which are engaging moments of your show anyway. Well, I'm going to click the plus icon here at the beginning of the timeline, and now I can choose from other recordings and other edits that I've made across all the projects in my studio. So if I click Edits, you'll see here I can actually scroll through all the clips. I can go to my exported clips, which these would have been ones that I shared on social media, and I can even browse magic clips from across my recordings. If you want, you can even search by typing in this box here, and we'll filter your results by the title that you specified. Then when you want to insert a clip, like this 30-second shorts, I'll click that, and Riverside's going to bring that into this edit. You'll see it brings over the transcript, color-coded speaker labels, and I can continue to edit this just like the rest of my content. And even if it was a vertical clip, doesn't matter because Riverside can do all the formats however you'd like. I can switch this entire project to a vertical format, or if I exported a vertical clip before, I can import that here and it'll automatically become horizontal. If you want to learn more about the Riverside editor and all the amazing tools that you have available, check out this video here and it'll be linked in the description. Number 5, Kellyanne is asking about volume with the Rodecaster Pro. The volume is really low, especially when they record with Riverside and they just can't get it higher. Now I have an entire video about the Rodecaster Pro 2 specifically, walking through all the settings. I'll link that above and in the description. But if you want to make sure your devices and mics are configured properly, first go to Audio Setup and then go to the channel for the microphone that you're trying to adjust. Let's say it's plugged into channel 1. You want to make sure the gain level of that microphone is set appropriately. On the Rodecaster Pro 2, you want to make sure the levels are hitting the yellow, maybe even touching the red occasionally, but you definitely want that meter to be in the yellow most of the time. That's going to be a proper volume and high enough to make sure your recording is good to go. But there's a second place you might need to adjust the volume. After setting your microphone gain level, then go over to Device Configuration, go to Output, and then down to Routing. Routing is actually the volumes of all your inputs going to different sources. So for instance, if you have your Rodecaster Pro connected to a computer, well, you should go to the USB 1 option, and these are actually the levels of the different channels going to your computer via USB. So that channel 1 microphone, if this is down, then even though your mic gain is set properly, the volume is not going to get to your computer via USB. So you will need to adjust microphone 1. You can use a custom mix and make that a little higher, and then the volume will be louder in Riverside when you record. So adjust these and do some test recordings before your next podcast or other content. Make sure the gain on your mic is set properly, and make sure the audio here in the USB settings is set properly too. Carolina is asking, they have a new podcast with 2 hosts, they travel a lot, and they need to be able to look good when making reels or vertical videos. Should they be on 2 different laptops for recording, or use one camera with the 2 of them squished? Great question. Definitely use 2 different cameras. That could be a mobile device or even the built-in laptop camera, but you definitely want a dedicated camera per person. The reason being, when you record with Riverside, even in person, if you have those separate camera angles, Now you can reformat to a vertical reel, and Riverside does it automatically. Then you can also have the 16:9 widescreen if you're uploading the full episode to YouTube or Spotify for creators. Also, with those two individual video tracks, you can crop and zoom per person. So if one guest you want to zoom in a little bit and reframe them, you can do that because you have two video tracks. You wouldn't be able to do that if it was just one video of both people. I also have an entire video talking about multicam recording and editing with Riverside, so you can watch that video above, and I walk through the entire setup with multiple devices, mobile, computer, or even tablets like an iPad. And finally, Jonathan is asking a technical question about editing with Riverside. When you have multiple cameras, like our last question, how do you choose which one to be active? This is an awesome question because it takes advantage of one of our great features called Smart Scenes. If I go to Layout here in the Riverside editor and then click Smart Scenes, Riverside is automatically going to focus on the active speaker throughout my recording. And the great thing about Smart Scenes is it'll focus on you and your co-host or guest. Both of you will be side by side. And then once one person really starts focusing on the conversation, Riverside will automatically switch to their video. Then when there's crosstalk or laughter, Riverside will focus on both people, basically giving you a multicam edit all in one click. Now, if you wanted to manually adjust who is being shown when, you can do that too. I'm going to create a new scene by clicking our Add Scene button here in the editor, and now we have tools here called Layout and Tracks. Under Layout, you can choose to focus on the active speaker, or you can use the grid view side by side, but if you like to hide one track or the other, then go over to the Tracks, unclick someone's video, and now it will just show the one person you have selected. If you want to show the other person, you can click Show and hide the other guest. Now you can also edit any scene that was automatically created with Smart Scenes. So if I go back a little bit, you'll see this was focusing on both of us. Well, I can still roll my mouse over, choose Tracks, and then unclick one person to hide them. Or if I want to add a new scene right here, and just for a moment have both of us on screen, I'll click Tracks, click my co-host, and now it'll be both of us, and then it goes back and forth to focus on me and then him, whoever's speaking. Smart Scenes is one of our amazing AI features built into Riverside. And if you'd like to see all of our AI features like set pace and remove filler words, and just the editor in general, check out this video right here where I walk through the entire platform. If you have any questions, especially if you'd like them featured here in these community videos, leave them below this video in the comments, or again, join our Facebook community. That link is in the description as well. Subscribe to the channel and hit that like button before you go. And if you'd like a full masterclass on how to live stream with Riverside, where you can live stream to multiple destinations, our OmniChat feature brings all the comments in one place and allows you to manage them easily. Check out my masterclass video right here. Thanks for watching. We can't wait to see what you create.